This
Ready?
conference will now be recorded.
John, I meant to stop by and say hello and goodbye to you because I'm in Minneapolis now. I flew out yesterday afternoon. So
Well, next time you come back, let me know. We so much appreciate the event you and Susan had for our mutual candidate, who won, by the way.
yes, she sure did.
That's great.
Now we got to get Henry Fernandez Rollins' name out. I mean, she's got a chance because there were like 6,000 blank votes in the Molokai one. A lot of people don't think they can vote for Molokai council person, but if she could pick up those blank votes, she'd win.
Yes, Kiana spoke at your house too. She's sharp. I voted for her as well.
Yes.
That was great.
Yeah.
Guys, pardon my ignorance of Hawaiian politics, but does each island have its own electoral representatives, or is it just doesn't matter what island you're on, you're represented by the same?
No, we have two congressional representatives. One was just won her. One guy just won the primary for essentially Honolulu. And that's Ed Case. And he used to be a councilman. He used to be a representative many years ago. I'm not a big fan of his. Even though he's a Democrat, he came out in favor of the invasion of Iraq. So that's how I lost faith in him. But somehow he came out of the closet again and got back in the primary, so he'll probably make it. And then our other congresswoman represents the outer islands, and that's Tulsi Gabbard. She's in the news quite a bit.
Oh yeah,
I like her.
Yeah.
I'm not a Democrat, but she really makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, she just is an independent, really. I mean, she may be a Democrat, but she doesn't just follow party lines.
Yeah.
Right.
I think she'll be a force to reckon with in the future as she gets older. She's very attractive. She's very well spoken.
Yeah.
I think she'll be a force. She may run for president one day.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. And I think she has got an eye on the Senate too, before too long. Father is a staunch Republican,
Wow.
Local politician from Hawaii, from Oahu. Yeah.
So they must have contentious Thanksgiving dinners.
Yeah.
Oh, you said her husband is?
No, her father.
Father.
Her father. Oh, okay. Yeah, that would be. Well, they probably do like we do in my family. We just don't talk politics. My son's a flaming liberal, and I'm very staunch conservative, libertarian more than anything. So we just don't talk about it to avoid conflict.
No politics, no religion.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's the rule.
Well, I'm surprised. We only have 4 people so far.
Yeah, it's like I said last week. Rick is the rock star. When they have people here, he's not showing up. They tend. We have smaller numbers.
Yeah. Well, on them.
That's right. Who needs them? So, John, are you on Maui also?
I am. I'm about 500 feet or 50 feet below Peter's girlfriend's house, and I've got a nice view, but she has a spectacular view. And yeah, we've lived here for about 3 years now.
Oh, so is that how you and Peter met, through Susan?
No. No, actually, we met through a doctor.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, great guy. Yeah, who happened to know Peter, and that is right at a time when I had no direction whatsoever. Didn't even have a urologist here, and it really helped out. I'm forever grateful for the guidance I got early on. Being so kind of out of my normal area here in Maui. So and Maui's a little bit of a challenge because we have a very small market. We're only 165,000 to get any kind of a good specialty here. is difficult, so we have to really network a lot.
Uh, so,
Yeah,
go ahead, Peter.
I'm just going to say, I've been running this small group for guys with any kind of cancer, and I'm doing it through our platform on twice a month, Wednesday evenings, first and third Wednesday. And there were only 3 of us on the phone last time, but there was a guy who called in, wanted to remain anonymous, with a young guy, 44, with colorectal cancer, pretty serious. He's already had surgery, already had radiation. No, he already had surgery, already had chemo, and he's about to do radiation. But his concern was that the doctor, his surgeon, never told him about possible side effects, particularly involving ability to bank sperm. He didn't warn him that, hey, this might be a good time to before you get surgery to bank your sperm. I don't have much experience in that field, but so his issue was that he came out of surgery, came out of chemo with erectile dysfunction from this colorectal cancer, and now what to do. I looked up on the internet. I guess there are ways surgically that they can go in and gather, go right into the testes and collect sperm. But I don't think they have the ability here on Maui to do that. I think this is more of a specialty, is my guess. I'm not sure. So I referred him to a doctor here that I've got a lot of respect for. He's a radiation oncologist who at least he's trained in Yale and Harvard. He's got the smarts to try to find the answer. So it was an interesting discussion, because we don't talk about that too much. Because we don't get too many young guys, but
Right.
we do, and it's important to bring that up, I think.
Peter, what type of cancer
You would
was
think
it?
that would be, for anybody that's young, under 50, for example, or even under 60, you would think that doctors would recommend that as a matter of course.
Yes.
Just in case you want to have children, later on.
Exactly, right. Colorectal cancer, stage 4 colorectal.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I didn't realize that was normally associated with ED, but I guess apparently it is.
Well, yeah, when you start messing around down in that area, you're to mess up something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a chance of him recovering.
I don't know. I think just like prostate cancer, when you get diagnosed young like that, it's usually much more aggressive and
Right.
so I'm not sure. He's got a cold.
Or you know what? If he had stage 4 colorectal, it may have invaded the prostate. Did he have his prostate removed?
No, I don't think so. He might have. I don't know. He wasn't sure about a lot of stuff. It took him. He's still in shock, I think.
Yeah.
How old did you say?
44?
44.
Yes.
And never had any children.
No children. Not in a relationship now, but he wanted to see if the day may come when that might be a possibility for him.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, John, I'm thoroughly familiar with Jake and Peter's background, disease background, but unlike Rick, none of us have access to people's history. So, just at least for I'm sure Peter knows, but for my sake and Jake's, what is your story?
Yeah, sure. Just thanks for asking, Len. I was diagnosed in a year ago in July with a Gleason 8. I had prior to that, rising PSA pretty steadily, but not really dramatic. It was still within the threshold, about 4.5. And then it jumped to 5.2. I did a couple of tests, saw a urologist in Honolulu. thought there might be perineural invasion, so didn't know really what to do at that point. He was recommending surgery. About that time, Dr. Asmus referred me to Peter, and I had the whole world opened up to me in terms of best practices. So I headed the direction of UCSF, talked to Peter Carroll there, and also Dr. Roach on the both surgical and radiation side. Decided to go with radiation, and had successful radiation last fall, and followed by preceded by Lupron and Casodex, and my numbers now are undetectable currently. I took the advice from the last call, and my urologist here said, if you're under, because of the nadir level you achieved, you don't really have to do the ultrafine every 3 months. Just do a regular test. And as long as you're still on Lupron, it'll probably stay low. So that's what I'm doing currently. I'm only taking the standard level test every 3 months. So that's a nutshell on me.
Okay, well, sounds good. So you said Gleason 8, I think?
Yes.
And what type of radiation did they give you?
They gave me 5 weeks of radiation. I didn't really have any extracapillary issues except for that possible nerve invasion. So they just I think they focused it primarily on the prostate, and I'm not sure if I had full pelvic floor or not, quite frankly. Dr. Roach administered it, and I was on Lupron at the time, and I quickly achieved a much lower PSA. I dropped really quickly down to 0.5, and then after surgery. And I also went on to have high dosage brachytherapy too after the radiation. And that was done by Dr. Shu at UCSF.
Okay.
Is the plan to keep you on Lupron for an indefinite period of time, or is there a finite period they're going to keep you on it?
Yeah, Dr. Roach says 24 weeks to be conservative. Rick pointed to research saying that, beyond 18 months, there really is a very negligible effect. So I think I'll revisit that question at 18 months. I'm going to see my urologist tomorrow to talk about it. But it sounds like maybe 18 months could be it for me.
Yeah, well, as long as it stays low, yeah, that sounds like it's been contained, or it is contained. So, some of us are going to be on it for the rest of our lives, unfortunately. Once it metastasizes, there's no stopping it.
Yeah, that's a good point. And just,
well, you've stopped it for quite a while, Jake.
Say again, Len?
You've stopped it for quite a while now.
No. I stopped it for about 6 months. Way back when, and it didn't last, and my PSA started going back up again, and so we decided that, but it's not going to work for me. So no, I've been on it almost consistently, with the exception of 5 or 6 months since 2012.
No, I didn't mean ADT. I meant you stopped the metastasis. You've been stable for quite a while, right?
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah.
My PSA has been stable, so yes, you're right. I'm sorry, I misunderstood you. Even though I'm beginning to wonder, because I've been having a lot more lower back pain. I always had bad lower back pain, but it's been worse for the last week or two. I don't know if it's psychosomatic because I stopped, right? Because I skipped as a meta infusion, or I don't know. I am kind of a hypochondriac, and I am subject to psychosomatic ailments. So I don't know. It's just, but usually I'll have bad back pain for a day or two, and then it'll go away. Lately, it's for the last week and a half or so, it's been worse than usual. So I don't know what that's telling me.
But Jake,
Yeah.
we had Jake and I were on the phone. We had the meeting yesterday, the low and intermediate, and there was a guy who was pretty interesting. He was diagnosed in 2000, so he's been with a pretty low grade Gleason 7. He was put on ADT. He's never had any primary treatment. He's been on and off ADT for 18 years, and he's suffering with it. I mean, he's got osteoporosis now, and I mean, he's done Firmagon and Casodex and on and off, and long periods of time, and he's really suffering with it. It was we kind of I didn't tell him what to do, but I said, you should interview some docs, take a look at some low impact primary treatment and either HDR or something like that. No, get off these.
He had never had any treatment, right, Peter?
Exactly. He never had any primary treatment. He's just been doing ADT to try to manage.
With the Gleason 7 too, that was a little bit unusual.
Yeah, it's very strange, that these doctors would keep him on that.
Yeah.
Was he a 3+4?
Yeah, 3+4. Yeah. Interesting case. So, anyways, he'd been on the phone, I think, a long time ago, but he came back, and I think we gave him some good direction. Someone was able to talk to him about high dose Reiki, and someone else suggested laser ablation of some kind, focal ablation. So at least I think it woke him up a little bit, see about other possibilities.
Right.
Yeah, that's a shame. He could, 18 years ago, my God, probably could have had radiation, had it over and done with, and he would have been fine.
I know.
Well, if I remember correctly, for the longest time, he thought he was fine. I mean, it was only in the last 3 or 4 years that it started acting up. His PSA, am I right? Didn't his PSA only started going up in the last 3 or 4 years?
A little more than that. He's kind of been on and off different times. He got away with it initially.
Yeah.
I heard an even more bizarre story from some guy at last year's conference in Reston, Virginia, the CDMRP. The guy was a Gleason 6 10 years ago, and he wanted to do active surveillance. So every year he has an 18-core biopsy. Isn't that insane? So 10 times 18. I said, you mean to tell me you've had 180 biopsy needles plugged into you? And he said, yeah, I guess I have. And meanwhile, the guy has incontinence, urinary urgency, and, no wonder his prostate was made like Swiss cheese by all these biopsies. And he's a Gleason 6.
Yeah, I guess the prostate fills in after they take the cores out. But, I mean, it's relatively small organ anyway, and I'm surprised that after that many punctures that there's even anything left. By the way, guys, Paul Frieda has just joined us.
Yeah, I got
Good evening, Paul, or good afternoon, wherever you are.
6 o'clock or a little after 6 here. I almost forgot. My wife reminded me. I almost forgot. How come we only have 4 guys? What's going on here? I've been doing this for 5 years, and I've never seen only 4 guys.
Well, two theories. One, Rick's announced that he wouldn't be here. That's possibly why. The second is it is August, summer vacations. Who knows?
Right.
Okay.
We do have a 5th guy. John Appler's on the phone, Paul.
Yeah, I see John. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, today was first day back to school for my daughter. So, actually the second day. Yesterday was the first day.
Really?
Good.
Oh,
I don't know how it is in other parts of the country, but here in Florida, they go back on the third. on the 13th, Monday.
Yeah, I was just in Florida. I was just going to ask you, are you living in Florida? Because I know they just started yesterday.
Yeah, I live on the East Coast in the Palm Beach County area.
Right.
Huh. Yeah, they don't start here in Maryland until after Labor Day.
Yeah, that's what I remember when I was a kid. We didn't start until Labor Day with the big holiday, and then you got to get ready, and then school starts. But
Right.
here much earlier. Yeah.
In Hawaii, they've already been in school 2 weeks. My grandchildren have already done 2 weeks of school.
No kidding. Is that right? 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Wow.
When does the school year end for them?
About a month earlier than you guys.
Okay.
I think maybe a lot of it
in
has
May.
with the temperature and humidity
Yeah,
and everything.
probably has something to do with the
A
heat.
lot of the schools are not air conditioned yet, so
Right.
they try to start it later in the year. I guess I think that's part of the reason. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Don't know. I don't really
Oh.
care. Like, 'cause I haven't been to school for years, and my kids haven't been to school for years. But
So Lynn, Ken Mason is another guy. He does AS through the National Institute of Health, and they were up until last year or the year before, they were doing biopsies on him every year. And now they're starting to use multiparametric MRIs and not put him through that every year. But he was showing up for biopsies.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
But he has no.
Is
no side
standard
effects?
now? Doesn't it make more sense to do an MRI now, and then if they see something, then do a biopsy? Isn't that the current trend?
I would think so. I think that's kind of the standard of care now.
Yeah.
And if at least they have the MRI to guide the biopsy, so they
Right.
know the target if there is something suspicious.
Paul, do you have any red tide issues on the East Coast?
No, I haven't heard anything about that. I think that's I think that's a West Coast thing, and maybe even the Panhandle area. But I know there are a lot of people up in arms about that.
Yeah, it's really bad. I was just in Venice, and some days were okay. Other days, the shoreline was just lined with dead fish and other eels and other creatures.
Where's the red stuff coming from? I haven't followed it.
Well,
Isn't it algae bloom?
yeah, it's an algae bloom. But when I was down there listening to the Florida news, they were saying that the source of the pollution that they believe is a major contributor is coming from a lake that's in the middle of Florida, Lake you probably know it better than I do, Okeechobee or something like that.
Okeechobee, yeah. Yeah, there's a huge lake, Lake Okeechobee, but how the heck does it get all the way out to the that Gulf there?
Yeah, I have no idea, but they seems to be general agreement that that's a major contributor. Somehow, I guess that lake drains into the Gulf.
Wow. But does Okeechobee also have the red algae problem? I guess.
I don't know. I never heard anything about it.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe the algae is only a saltwater thing, and the lake is the lake freshwater? I don't even know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I wouldn't think so.
I thought most lakes are freshwater. Yeah.
Right. Me too.
Yeah, I think there are some saltwater, but maybe not in this country.
Yeah.
But yeah, that, and they think possibly fertilizer runoff
Okay.
along the coast. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now the funny thing is, they showed a map of the red tide, and it actually showed it as being originating on the East Coast in the Atlantic. And so I was thinking, oh, wonder somehow that gets over to the West Coast in the Atlantic. But you say you've never even heard of it or seen it over there.
No, I haven't. Now, maybe a little farther north is a problem, but gosh, Boynton Beach and Boca Raton and Lake Worth and West Palm Beach, I haven't heard anything in this area about it, or Miami either. But I can't say that I'm up on all the news. But my impression when I heard about it, because I heard some people threatening people running for governor and saying, you're not doing anything about the red tide. We're not voting for you. And I got the impression it was the West Coast that was where the problem was, or maybe up near the Panhandle. But that's about all I know. It's just sort of a general impression.
Oh yeah, it's definitely been a problem for many years on the West Coast, particularly Southwest, like Sarasota or even Tampa down to Naples.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I do remember something that I don't know if it's related, but not too long ago there were some scientists who were very worried about certain algae species that what they called alien species. That is, there's nothing to stop their growth. There's nothing to eat them and nothing to control their growth. And they were predicting that the Mediterranean was going to be, totally, overrun by it, within 10 years. And I haven't checked on it lately, but that was a real problem. But it might be a similar kind of thing where it just gets out of control and there's nothing, nothing to, there's no balance in nature to control it. So.
Yeah, that's a shame because the Southwest Florida beaches are absolutely beautiful, pure white sand.
Well, I hope they can come up with some solution for it. Yeah, that certainly would be
Yeah.
be tragic if they
I
couldn't.
don't pay a whole lot of attention to it, but I think it's a late summer phenomenon that has to do with the heat.
It used to be, Jake. It used to be, but now it's almost a year-round thing. I was in Florida in February, and we had a problem then.
Wow.
In
Yeah.
Siesta Key. So anyway, guys, there's only like 5 of us, and
Rick is on the phone now. Rick is on the phone.
Yeah, it looks like
is he?
he's got himself muted, but it sounds like he can hear us. Either that, or he's just getting something ready and getting ready to come back to the computer.
Yeah, he just wants to see if we're talking about him. So let's talk about him.
Okay. All right. Someone say something nice. That won't be hard.
But while we're waiting for Rick to participate, if he does, does anyone would anyone like the floor this evening? Anything they want to talk about?
Let's see.
Prostate cancer wise, not red
Right.
tide.
Right.
I have just something general, a curiosity, and I want to make sure I'm following, the best and brightest people out there who are in the press and maybe at companies and speaking, so we kind of, get a track record of the next thing. Is there any person in particular that you guys follow that you think has a real vision to eventually cure this, and that we should all really pay attention to? And someone not in our group, but outside of our group.
You're talking about physicians, clinicians.
Yeah, physicians, clinicians, researchers, corporate people.
Well, they have this is something Rick knows much more than I do about, and maybe Peter knows a lot as well. You have the East Coast and the West Coast Dream Team for prostate cancer. Do you know much about that, Peter?
No, I know. I know that it exists. I don't know, what facility. They're mostly educational facilities that are on. So,
Yeah, I've heard Rick use that term or those terms.
Yeah. There's a lot of cooperation with high-end research people. But, there's been, just the last couple of years, there's a lot of changes going on in terms this particular year in terms of scans. The whole world opened up with scans, but and immunotherapy is opening up.
Yeah,
a lot to stay on top of for sure. But I don't have a name particularly that leaps out to me.
Yeah, I think you're right, Peter. I think immunotherapy is probably the future. If they can find one that works and it's not going to kill you, you know, I don't know.
Yeah.
Then you have like lutetium 177, and then we hear about people like Rob who are not doing well. So I wonder, is lutetium causing him the problems, or did he have additional problems, besides that? I don't know. So it's all experimental and it's all new, but it's also not. None of it is thick science. But I know all I can say is I know they're working on it.
John, are you asking because you're interested in keeping up with the latest advances? Like
Yeah, I think we're
in a news
exactly
feed?
new threads of research, and we spend so much time on social media following our goofball friends when I want to really follow some key voices out there and see the direction of research. And, it gives me hope that, 5 years from now or 10 years from now, one of these immunotherapies will be bulletproof. And it's more for a matter of, and I like to invest also. I found one fund I talked to Rick about called the ARC Genomic Fund that invests in a lot of early stage people who part of their focus is prostate cancer, but would like to find someone, who is the thought leader that we could all follow and talk about and, stay abreast of and whatnot. And I just did a search on, prostate cancer dream team. And sure enough, you're right. There was a $10 million grant to UCSF for several of the key players there. And that's interesting. But no, I just kind of top of my head, as you guys see people that you think is really a thought leader, I'd love to have you just share it in this group or share it with me personally so we can all start following kind of not just the written research, but the kind of the direction of research as well.
Do you follow Mike Scott? New Project
no.
Link. Look
Oh,
up.
yes, I do. Yes.
Okay.
That's a good one.
He's not a doctor. He's but he's a very knowledgeable person, and he kind of stays on top of all the research, and he somehow or another he finds out about it before anybody else does. So I depend on him. I get his emails, and I depend on him for just releasing the latest and the greatest. So if you're not following him, I definitely would start.
Yeah, in fact, this week he had some great discussions about, how effective really is ADT in terms of progression-free survival, and it sounds like the jury's really out in terms of a long-term study on that. But he's a great guy, and thanks for reminding me. And I'm looking for people like him exactly. Thanks, Jake.
Yes.
So I've got a question topic that bugs me a little bit. With all the advances we have, there's when you talk advanced disease or even a low grade disease, it's pretty darn predictable what's going to happen. Like I had a deciphered genomic test on my tumor right after my prostatectomy, and it came back that said the odds were pretty darn good that I would have metastatic disease within 5 years. And sure enough, 4 years, I had metastatic disease. I wonder, I mean, we can all live longer lives now. Treatments that are going around now extend our lives a great deal. But in terms of knocking down the progression, I wonder whether it's possible. I mean, is there something else I could have done to knock down the progression of the march toward metastatic disease? Because in my mind, it's just going to march on. Yes, I'm going to get further treatment in November with proton beam, but I know that's not going to solve the game. I mean, the odds of it really stopping things are really low. So chances are, it's going to pop up someplace else, and so I'll do further treatment later on, and just go on living perhaps 10 years. Maybe I can eke out 15 years. I don't know. Depends on how good I feel and what my quality of life is. So I guess that's my basic question. Have we made progress into stopping the progression or really slowing it down, or are we just making progress in terms of stabilizing people in their states?
Yeah, good point.
I don't think anybody has found anything that's going to stop it. But like you said last night, Peter, it's going to, there are treatments that slow it down and can kind of set it back for a while. And that's what the researchers are working on, is trying to find the next best thing. I don't think they found it yet, though, unfortunately. At least none that I know of.
Yeah,
Right.
it's
Especially once it's metastatic. Once it's
problem
metastatic.
is, yeah, the problem is we just don't know enough yet. What causes the disease to go into long-term durable remission, and then suddenly it becomes active again? I don't think that's really understood. So if you don't understand why that's happening, I guess it's difficult to address how to prevent it from happening. But I can tell you this, I was diagnosed 4 years ago, and I remember reading at the time that once the prostate cancer metastasized to the bone, that you had about 2 years. But obviously there are many people that all of us know who live for many more years.
Right.
Jake is one, yeah. Dominic was another. And I know some people, been around for 10 years with bone metastases. So somehow they're making progress. I don't know what it's attributed to exactly, but I assume it's some of the newer treatments.
Yeah, we are living longer. I mean, there's no doubt, no question about that.
Yeah, right.
That's why many of us aren't freaked out anymore. And my dad, when he was diagnosed, the doctor said 3 years, and that was it. And sure enough, 3 years he died because he was early days before much treatment. But I know they're working on ways to stop metastasis, or when there's systemic disease, how do you get those circulating tumor cells, to not metastasize and so forth. I don't hear too much about that kind of research, but I'm sure it's going on.
Yeah, definitely is. Just to get back to John for a moment and his question, John, I'm not sure if you're only interested in progress at the clinical stage or if you're also interested at the preclinical research stage, but are you aware of the congressionally directed medical research program?
No, I'm not.
Okay, so this is cancer research it's not just cancer as well, it's the long-term serious illnesses. It's funded by the Department of Defense, believe it or not Health and Human Services. And prostate cancer is one of the cancers for which they offer grants for prostate cancer researchers. And there is a conference every year in the fall. And you can, if you're interested, Rick or one of us can write a letter of recommendation for you, and you can participate as what they call a consumer reviewer. So you go to the conference, you sit at a table with a bunch of the top scientists, research scientists from all over the country, and you listen to the research that they're doing. And because you're not a scientist, as a consumer reviewer, your job is to think of the impact that that research might have on prostate cancer patients and to rate it accordingly. Now, the other scientists around the table will rate the scientific merit of the grant proposals. So typically, you'll be required to review about 15 different proposals, and it could be very demanding. It's difficult technical language, but they give you like a couple of months or at least 6 weeks ahead of time to review the protocols. And then you go down to Reston, Virginia, and you participate in these. They discuss all the grant proposals, and you vote on them. And the ones that get the highest ratings get funding. And I can't remember if I already mentioned this, but for prostate cancer research this year, they have $100 million in grants that they're going to be awarding.
Wow, interesting.
So,
I've never heard of that program.
Yeah, that's one way that you can be aware of the early research. And as Peter mentioned, I remember there being a protocol where they were looking at ways to, when the prostate cancer cells enter the bone marrow, they know certain factors that will trigger those cells to, if they're sleeping, if they're in remission, to suddenly activate. So there was a research paper that was targeting a mechanism to prevent the activation of those cells that are already in the bone marrow. So, just to give you an idea of the kind of research that you'll be exposed to and be aware of if you participate in those conferences.
That's interesting. I personally don't think that I'm, technical enough to fill that role in a meaningful way. But boy, I think several in our group might be interested in doing that. That's really interesting to hear. And
yeah, as I said,
all kind of a window.
You don't really need to have a scientific background, because you'll be reminded many times, don't try and judge the science. As a consumer reviewer, they want you to assume that the science is valid and is true. The scientists themselves will pick it apart, but you assume that it's true, and then you just say to yourself, okay, if this science is true, if it works out, how will this affect prostate cancer patients? Is this something that we need? Is it just another androgen receptor blocker, for instance, or synthesis inhibitor? Or is it something more capable, possibly, of offering a cure? So that's your job as a consumer reviewer, to represent the patients and how the research might affect their lives.
Interesting.
Yeah, interesting. Hey, Len, that sounds, have you thought about that yourself as to your own participation in that?
Oh, I've been doing it for the past 3 or 4 years.
Good for you.
Yeah,
interesting.
I enjoy it personally. It's like I said, it's actually quite a bit of work because you want to understand as much as you can, but you at least want to get enough of the gist to understand the impact that the research might have. You don't necessarily have to understand all the science that's being presented in the protocol. They actually even have what they call a lay. There's a technical abstract and there's a lay abstract, LAY. They want you to do more than just read the lay abstract, but at least the lay abstract gives you, even as a non-scientist, gives you an idea of the potential of the research.
Interesting.
Oh, yeah, they pay for your airfare to and from wherever you're coming from. They pay for your, I think it's 2 or 3 nights that you're in the hotel. They pay for your meals. And on top of that, they usually give you a stipend, something like about $1,200–1,300.
Wow, interesting. Wow.
Although that you don't get that till several months after the conference ends. I guess that's the bureaucracy part of it.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I'll do some research on that. Is there a
Yeah, I'll
consistency
tell
as
you
to
what.
where
I will send you. Well, of course, it's too late for this year already because we're already near the fall, and they probably already selected the candidates for consumer reviewer. Well, they will be very shortly. But I can send you or send to Rick, and he can forward to you the application. So you have to complete an application, show that you're active in, as a prostate cancer advocate, which you are by participation in your local group with Peter and this online group. And so they'll ask you questions like that, and you get a recommendation from either Peter or from Rick, the head of your local group, and and then eventually they'll let you know if there's an opening for you.
that's fascinating. I'd be interested in hearing more about it. Is there some consistency of where the research seems to emanate from? Is there a particular school or a particular program or center anywhere that you see a lot of the new cutting edge research coming from?
Well, you see the same names coming up. All the university research hospitals, the better known ones, a lot of the, you'll see people from Duke, from MD Anderson, from some of the UCLA or University of California research universities. I can't, off the top of my head, I don't recall, but familiar names.
Good, interesting.
And
sounds interesting.
The areas of research cover the gamut from chemotherapy to immunotherapy, precision medicine, targeting specific gene mutations, that sort of thing. And there are several groups. Like there's a pathobiology group. There's a biological chemistry group, which is, for some reason, it's the one that they always assign me to. There's an immunotherapy group, which I'd love to get into, but you don't get to pick which group you're in. They just assign you.
Interesting. Is that your background, Len? Are you biochemistry by training?
Pharmacology. So yeah, I took a lot of biology, chemistry, biochemistry. That might be why. But as I said, most people who serve as consumer reviewers are not. They don't have scientific backgrounds.
Yeah, interesting.
So you attend as a layperson, Len, but you also have a lot of scientific knowledge and understand a lot more than the average layperson would. Right,
but nevertheless, they still don't want me to give my opinion on the science because they have top-notch prostate cancer researchers who are really on top of their field.
This is
that's their job.
This is Department of Defense, and it's not connected with the Joe Biden initiative, is it?
No.
Okay.
No, this existed many, many years before Joe Biden
Okay.
program. Yeah.
I don't think that ever went anywhere, did it?
Yes, I think they fund a lot of research, I think.
The Joe Biden thing?
Yeah, I think UCSF has a fair amount of money from that. Yeah, it's still going on.
By the way, guys, Larry Fish just arrived.
Larry Fish. Hi, Larry. How are things in Brooklyn?
He's still muted. He may still be trying to get it.
Hello, am I on?
Oh, there he is. Yep, we hear you.
Yes, you're on. You're on the air. I feel like
Was there a meeting tonight that I'm joining?
yes.
Oh, good.
You've been
'cause
here.
I had
You've
to
been
clean
here for
out
almost.
meeting
ahead.
organizer in order for you to hear me.
Listen, you guys. Len, I'm gonna cut out because I'm kind of exhausted.
Yeah, sure, Peter. Go ahead.
Okay. So good catching.
Thanks for joining.
Okay, I'll keep in touch with you.
Peter.
Okay.
Yep.
Take care.
Good luck with Jet.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, great talking to you. See you, Peter.
It's nothing personal, Larry. He had a long flight from Hawaii to Minnesota, so he's kind of jet lagged.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was at Sloan today, Memorial
Oh.
Sloan Kettering, and then I had a
What
meeting
happened?
and I got home. It was actually it was okay. I'm still status quo pretty much.
Which for you is PSA of what?
Well, my PSA went up. It took a jump from 0.08 to 0.14. And then the month after that, it went back to 0.13. So I'm still in this space as far as my doctor's concerned. I'm more worried than she is, she says. This wavering since last August back and forth since I withdrew from Casodex. So I had, it was like I was castration resistant. And as she says, well, you're not really, you kind of stopped Casodex and you stabilized, and you can't really say you're castration resistant because the PSA was dropping for a while after I stopped Casodex. So that's where I am. It hasn't really gone up 2 times in a row yet. So I lost the definition of castration resistant for the time being.
If you have to lose something, that's a good thing
Yeah,
to
I
lose.
know. I mean, I didn't know that could be done, but that's what happened. She said you really wouldn't qualify it as MCRPA, castration resistant right now for thinking about studies or tests.
So you're one of the lucky 30% of people who stop Casodex and whose PSA actually goes down.
It did. It went down it was at 0.6 something, and it went down to 0.08 or 0.06 again, and it's been wavering back and forth. And she says she doesn't know how long that goes on. Sometimes that goes on for a while.
Yeah, it's not permanent. I do know that.
Yeah, she did.
They call it the anti-androgen withdrawal syndrome.
Right. And there's like this. It meant that the mutating cells were able to feed off of the Casodex, really.
Right.
Yep.
Oh, good for you. So you're in a holding pattern for the time being.
Right. And so I have nothing special to talk about other than staying with the group.
Well, we're always glad to hear good news.
Yeah, sure. How's Professor Bill doing? Anybody know?
We haven't heard from Bill in a while. He has some personal family issues unrelated to his prostate cancer that have kept him extremely busy and preoccupied. So that's why he hasn't joined the call for a while.
I'll tell you, Len, I sort of started, I had a couple hours. I started working on a variation of a PowerPoint for clinical trials, a kind of very simplified version, a quick version that if I ever get around to the second half of the slides that I have to put out, I thought I would send to you and Bill and say I gave all credit to Bill for working on the original that we hadn't released. And I thought, well, this one is really, I skip most of I just go right to clinical trials, advanced, search, get results, and show how to do that, and then I'll think I'm going to talk about what inclusions and exclusions are and how this could be valuable for somebody. And then I'll send you a version of it.
Okay,
If I
do me
don't,
a
if
favor
I,
though.
and Bill,
Don't send it to Bill because, as I said,
right.
he's really up to his eyeballs in
Yeah,
other
I
issues.
wasn't. That's even why I'm talking to you now, is because I
Yeah,
thought, I remember you said that he said, "Oh, if there's anything I'm going to get done, I promise I'm going to get this done." And you
yeah,
said, "Yeah, don't make that promise. It's not that important." Something like that, whatever you can, you can. And that was quite a while ago, and that's why I wanted to. I thought, well, let's just see if we're going to do something else simple, and leaving all credit with him for the original one that he did. Just we can't release it without his final approval.
yeah, yeah. It's been months since he's been able to do anything on it, and from time to time, I've been thinking to myself, well, maybe I should just make the changes that we asked Bill to make, and then, I'd send it to Rick and see if he thought it was okay to publish it. But and then I'd forget about it. So I'm glad you're working on it. Yeah,
You know,
I would welcome.
the grants were done. They got in.
Ah, good.
Most are successful. I'm sitting around my desk at work, like trying to make myself do something. And so I started to play with the PowerPoint. And I didn't mention, I mean, I will mention it, but I'm not going to talk about the basic versus the advanced search, the NCI, alternative searches, why I chose a search or why. I'll just say that this is a method to dive right in and show you how to do a quick and easy, quick and dirty and easy advanced search, and how those results, how you can work with those results. And I think I need to say something about inclusion and exclusions and trying to understand before you talk to your doctors about it, because you want to sound knowledgeable. And just that's it, and show like what I did and just put it out. Something like half the size and quick.
That
Yeah,
kind of ties in with what John Appler was asking about earlier. He was asking about how do I keep track of the latest research and find out, what's going on and who's doing what. I think what you and Len and Bill Burhans have been doing is another good source of information once you compile it and provide it to John.
Yeah, well, Bill and Len had a great. I mean, the idea was also how to track what how to come up with the additional without repeating the whole thing.
Right.
Playing around, redoing it, just finding out what's new and tracking. Uh, I was even talking to my doctor today. Well, we had like our usual discussions. But the thing that was interesting was I mentioned, we were talking about trials and how I'm trying to position myself and where I had to be to fit in, which PSA 1.0 or greater, and some kind of evidence of metastasis or something they could biopsy to have those two things together really fit you for trials without having done other immunotherapies. She said that's what they say, but if you have 3 clear doublings of PSA, they can usually go with that if you had some prior metastasis in the past, even if they can't really biopsy. You just doctor said maybe you couldn't get anything from the biopsy you would do, so theoretically you have something biopsyable, but they can't get it. They won't exclude you for that. So you can really get into these trials based on 3 consecutive, castration resistant trials. You can get in based. So I thought those kind of things are interesting to note, but it's important to look at inclusions and exclusions when you're looking at studies. And it's also important to know enough about it so when you talk to your doctor, they don't think that you're just throwing, spitting into the wind with ideas for what you want to do that don't have any relevance. They're not going to, you're completely out of the picture. You're talking about something that doesn't apply to you. You don't know what the terms mean. You do need to put a little work into it. But to get a basic list of 50 or the 100 or 50, the 100 or the 50 trials that might be applicable to you, that's very simple. And it's a good place to hang out for a while, reading a little bit and gaining your confidence. And then you're a step up on the doctor who only has so much time to spend on all the trials that are going on around the different variations of prostate cancer around the country. And you're looking at the ones that are interesting to you. So it's a valuable thing to bring those to your doctor. That's sort of the idea of my concept.
You know, Larry, if I can
Correct me
interrupt
if
for a
I'm wrong.
moment.
Aren't these trials a lot of times pre-FDA approval for new drugs and new treatments, and they have to go through this phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, and then it gets submitted to the FDA?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's almost all
Usually.
of them.
Yeah, I mean, it's only at phase 4. If there's tremendous results, they can push for FDA approval in some part during the trial.
Oh, I didn't even know there was
Guys,
phase 4.
let me interrupt for a moment because I don't even know if John and Paul know what in the world we're talking about here. Do you guys know about
Oh,
this?
I'm sorry. I just thought it was just Len and I say Jake's there and John's there and Paul's there.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. So
No, I don't know.
yeah, sorry about that. So months ago, Rick had kind of requested or authorized that Larry, Bill Burhans, and myself come up with a presentation of how to search clinical trials databases, particularly clinicaltrials.gov. And then we were going to post it on the website, the Answer Cancer website. But long story short, Bill had put together something that needed some editing, and he just never got around to it for many different reasons. So that's what Larry's talking about. So let me ask, Paul and John, do you ever search clinicaltrials.gov?
No.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah,
that's
I just assumed that. I assume
Sorry?
that unless you were metastatic, there wouldn't be anything available. But did I hear Larry say that 3 doublings of PSA is the equivalent of being metastatic for the purposes of getting into trials? Did I hear that right?
I wasn't saying that exactly.
Okay.
I was talking more about. I was really discussing what applied to my case because I was metastatic, and I went on Lupron and Casodex, and it resolved the metastasis, put it into hold, and cleared up the scans. And I stayed on that for 2 years, and then my PSA started to go up. Well, forget about all my details, but when I talked to my doctor about definition, she says, well, once you're metastatic, you're always metastatic, even if it doesn't show up, because you may have been able to suppress the growth or the signs, but it's still presumably sitting around in your bones and throughout your body, wherever. So,
Yeah, I see.
but the Casodex rebound effect really took me out of the definition of castrate resistant. So that if my PSA would rise again 3 times, and I was redefined as castrate resistant, I'd be eligible because there was evidence of metastasis, even if they couldn't exactly biopsy it now. So it was.
Got it.
I don't think if you were ever metastatic that you would qualify for a castrate. Right. But there is a non-metastatic castrate resistant, isn't there?
But Paul, the short answer to your question is, if you're on ADT and you have 2 or 3 consecutive rises in PSA, like at least 2 weeks apart, then you are considered castrate resistant.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with metastasis necessarily. It's just that's the definition of being castrate resistant.
And I assume that means you qualify for a whole lot of clinical trials.
For some, definitely.
But there are also clinical trials for people who are non-metastatic, hormone sensitive, another word for non-castrate resistant.
And
all kinds of.
And for people who are who are castrate resistant, non-metastatic. Also, they have those categories.
Didn't know that. Thank you.
To be metastatic, that means a scan has identified a high density area that's likely to be cancer.
I think they have to prove it. I think likely means likely, and it's, seems like metastatic until they biopsy one area. I don't know that they define it.
They have to biopsy it also?
Right. No, they don't have just one of them.
No, you don't, Larry.
Oh.
If they scan you and they see areas of your bone that are lighting up on the scan, they wouldn't wait to biopsy those lesions before they declare you metastatic. They would just say, yeah, you're metastatic.
Right.
My original
Yeah,
doctor.
I mean, the guys who read the scans are trained to distinguish between some degenerative bone condition that might look like a lesion and a real prostate cancer lesion. So those guys know what they're doing. Sure, can they make a mistake occasionally? Yeah, but for the most part, they don't biopsy in order to prove that you're metastatic, because it's often very difficult to get a biopsy
Right.
bone. The lesions are so small.
Right.
Yeah, I know that in my case, I had a prostate biopsy. It was positive. They did a MRI CAT scan. They saw Christmas tree lights, and they took the brightest spot, my hip, and they biopsied that, and then they declared metastatic. But that happened all very fast. It happened fast.
In your case,
in my case,
maybe because the lesion was large enough that they could biopsy, they figured, well, let's do it.
Yeah.
But they don't. That's not necessarily routine at all.
And not all metastases show up on a scan either. Sometimes they're too small to show up on a scan.
True.
Right.
I think that everybody who has been declared like a stage 1 and has a prostatectomy, and then 3 years later they have a metastasis. I think they probably all were somewhat metastatic to begin with. Cells had escaped, just nobody could see any of them.
Yeah.
Yep.
Physicians will disagree on exactly who the term metastatic should be applied to. For instance, I had positive lymph nodes. Peter has positive lymph nodes. Neither one of us have ever shown actual bone lesions. Now, does that mean we're metastatic? Because it's not in the bone, or at least it's not scannable in the bones? Some will say yes, some will say not really. Like I mentioned that to one of the oncologists I was seeing. I said, well, I don't know, am I considered metastatic? I have lymph node lesions. And the answer was, well, are you metastatic? The answer was barely, whatever that means.
Yeah, I think technically once it's any place out of the prostate detected, it's a stage 4, which does mean there is a metastasis.
Oh, it's definitely stage 4. Yeah.
They have that definition, oligometastatic, which means like localized, small, nothing has gone distant. It's a vague definition, but I think that's what lymph nodes would apply to.
But well, I think oligometastatic applies to something like 3 to no more than 5 bone metastases. I've heard the term regionally advanced disease applied most often for positive lymph nodes. Regionally advanced.
Right. Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah.
So it's funny. I when I had my PET scan, I was told that I had Mets in my bones, my spine, my hip, my sacrum, but nothing showed up in my lymph nodes. So
Yeah, that could happen.
you can be metastatic in different areas of the body, but I think the key definition is once it's escaped the prostate and is in any place else in your body, it is now metastatic. And I believe,
Yeah,
as
it's that
Larry
they,
said,
it's
it's considered stage 4.
yeah, it's a stage 4. But
Yeah.
it may not have reached. I I always think of it as like it's their cells that got out that escaped from the prostate, and they searching around looking for places to land. And when they land somewhere and multiply, they become visible, and then it becomes clearer where they are and what to define them as.
Right.
That if it's you see it lighting up in the lymph, it may not have gone clearly found any other spot that it stopped. But if it showed up at the bone, it passed through probably some lymph. How did it get there? Got there through the blood without the lymph? It's possible, I guess.
It's possible.
I don't think they know.
No, I don't think they do. So, guys, anybody else have anything they want to discuss? Because in addition to Peter, I was also jet lagged, having flown up from Florida today and then 3 hours of traffic getting out of JFK to get home.
Wow. We'll give you a break, Len.
Yeah, thanks for being here, Len. And I'm sorry it wasn't 10, 12 guys here when I signed on.
Oh, you're always welcome. We're
Yeah.
more the merrier.
And we will have
thanks for very much.
we will have the recording on the website at a later, a little bit later tonight or tomorrow. So if you want to listen to it again or whatever. So,
Yeah, I
thanks
did
for
that.
the reminder about clinicaltrials.gov. And Len, what was the name of the congressionally directed research program that you participate in?
Well, you just named it. It's called the Congressionally Directed Medical Research Program, CDMRP, for prostate cancer research program. It's a mouthful, but as they have CDMRP has programs for breast cancer, colon cancer, and a bunch of others.
Got it. Okay. And I'll follow that term online. Thanks so much for that.
Yeah. Oh, and I think I got notification, John, that you were following me on Twitter, was it?
Yes. I look for smart people to follow on Twitter all the time.
Oh, well, unfortunately.
Somehow I got you by mistake.
No, unfortunately, I almost never tweet anything. I'm not even sure if I ever did. I only established an account to follow other people.
Well, I try and find researchers to follow there too. Yeah, I'm the same way. I don't tweet much either, but it's kind of to me like TV. I love to listen to interesting people on there. So.
Yeah. So listen, guys, I'm going to drop out, but feel free to carry on the conversation if you want.
We can call it quits for a day. And thanks so much for keeping it rolling.
Well, thank you all for coming.
Yeah, thanks, and let's all hang in here if we can.
Okay, so next meeting Monday, I presume, right, Jake?
Monday at 8:00 Eastern time. Yes. Oh, somebody just did this join us on a telephone.
Hang on.
Somebody just called on the telephone. Care to identify? You're a little bit late. We're getting ready to close down because we had a small turnout, and Len, who is our moderator tonight, is very tired from a long day on the road. So please join us next time on Monday at 8:00 Eastern time, or Tuesday 2 weeks from now at 6:00 Eastern time, and we'll be glad to talk to you then. Okay.
All right. Thanks a lot, you guys. Take care, everybody.
Good night.
Bye-bye,
Take care.
everybody. Thank you.
Good night, guys. Thanks, Len.